In the quiet town of Ravens Hollow, nestled deep within the dense woods, there stood a dilapidated mansion known as the Haversham Manor. Abandoned for decades, its shattered windows and overgrown gardens told tales of a family that vanished without a trace. Despite the eerie history, one brave soul named Oliver took it upon himself to call the mansion home for a brief period. Oliver was a writer in search of solitude, a recluse who found inspiration in the strangest of places. The creaky wooden floors and the eerie whispers of the wind through the broken panes seemed to beckon him, promising untold stories. He moved into Haversham Manor with nothing but a typewriter, his notebooks, and a suitcase of personal belongings. The first few nights were uneventful, with Oliver losing himself in the rhythmic tapping of the keys and the haunting beauty of the moonlit surroundings. However, as the days passed, the house seemed to come alive with a sinister energy. Late one night, Oliver awoke to the sound of footsteps echoing through the halls. His heart raced as he crept through the dimly lit corridors, only to find them empty. The silence that followed was broken by the distant murmur of voices that seemed to float through the air, whispering words that sent shivers down his spine. Soon, the walls of Haversham Manor seemed to pulse with a malevolent force. Shadows danced on the periphery of Oliver's vision, and he caught fleeting glimpses of ghostly figures in the mirrors. Each night, the whispers grew louder, speaking in a language that Oliver couldn't comprehend but could feel in the depths of his soul. Desperate for answers, Oliver delved into the history of the mansion. He discovered that the Haversham family had been practitioners of the occult, conducting dark rituals in the very rooms he now inhabited. Legends spoke of a forbidden doorway to another realm hidden within the house, a portal that allowed malevolent spirits to cross over. As Oliver unraveled the secrets of the mansion, the supernatural occurrences intensified. Objects moved on their own, and the air became thick with an otherworldly presence. The once welcoming study, where Oliver spent his nights writing, transformed into a chamber of horrors as the walls bled with spectral images. One fateful night, as the moon hung low in the sky, Oliver found himself drawn to the forbidden doorway. The whispers reached a deafening crescendo, urging him to open it. Trembling, he placed his hand on the ancient doorknob, and the portal swung open with a haunting creak. A blinding light enveloped him as he stepped into a realm between worlds. The air was icy, and the shadows seemed to consume every inch of the desolate landscape. The whispers turned into agonized screams, echoing through the abyss. Oliver realized he had become a conduit for the spirits trapped within Haversham Manor. In a desperate attempt to escape, Oliver stumbled back through the portal, but the door slammed shut behind him. The mansion shook with fury as the spirits sought revenge for disturbing their eternal slumber. Oliver was trapped in a nightmarish limbo, his screams joining the chorus of the tormented souls. As the first light of dawn broke, the mansion stood silent once more, its secrets buried within its decaying walls. The townsfolk spoke of Oliver's disappearance, but Ravens Hollow remained a place best left undisturbed. The only reminder of the writer who dared to uncover the mysteries of Haversham Manor was the echo of his chilling screams that lingered in the air, a warning to those who sought solace in the embrace of the supernatural. In the small town of Blackridge, nestled at the edge of a dense and ancient forest, lived a man named Samuel. He was an introverted artist who sought refuge in a quaint cottage at the outskirts of town. The cottage, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets to each other, was Samuel's haven from the chaotic world. One stormy night, with rain lashing against the windows and thunder rumbling in the distance, Samuel found himself alone at home. His solitude, usually a source of comfort, took an eerie turn as the storm intensified. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls, and the wind howled through the trees like a chorus of lost souls. As Samuel worked on his latest painting, a feeling of unease settled over him. He couldn't shake the sensation that he was being watched. Glancing nervously over his shoulder, he dismissed it as a figment of his imagination, blaming the storm for playing tricks on his senses. As the night wore on, the feeling of being observed persisted. Samuel heard subtle, inexplicable noises, a soft rustling, like footsteps on damp leaves, and an occasional whisper that seemed to echo through the corridors of his cottage. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to elongate and contort, taking on sinister forms that moved independently of any light source. Attempting to distract himself, Samuel decided to play music, hoping to drown out the unsettling sounds. Yet as the melody filled the air, the eerie whispers seemed to harmonize with the haunting notes, creating a disconcerting symphony that resonated throughout the cottage. Growing more anxious, Samuel decided to investigate. Armed with a flickering lantern, he cautiously explored each room, finding nothing out of the ordinary. The storm outside intensified, battering the windows with rain and casting a strobe-like effect of light and darkness. Returning to his art studio, Samuel froze in the doorway. The painting he had been working on had transformed. The once serene landscape now depicted a shadowy figure lurking in the periphery, a tall, faceless silhouette with eyes that glowed like cold embers. It seemed to be staring directly at him, its presence oozing malevolence. Fear gnawed at Samuel's insides as he stumbled backward, the lantern flickering dangerously. The storm outside seemed to mimic his internal turmoil, reaching a crescendo that masked the sound of his racing heartbeat. Determined to escape the oppressive atmosphere, Samuel decided to leave the cottage and seek refuge in the town. But as he opened the door, the wind slammed it shut with a force that felt unnatural. Panic set in as he realized he was trapped, the cottage now a prison, where he was at the mercy of an unseen watcher. The night wore on, and Samuel, paralyzed by fear, continued to hear the whispers and footsteps. The walls seemed to close in around him, and the shadows became tangible entities that slithered and crept along the edges of his vision. In a final act of desperation, Samuel gathered his courage and confronted the painting. As he stared into the eyes of the shadowy figure, a voice whispered in his mind, a voice that resonated with ancient malevolence. It spoke of forgotten sins, of an entity imprisoned in the painting, and of a pact that bound Samuel to its watchful gaze. The storm outside gradually subsided, and the cottage returned to an uneasy calm. Samuel, changed by the night's events, remained within the walls that had become both sanctuary and prison. The eerie whispers persisted, a constant reminder of the unseen watcher in the shadows, forever bound to his solitude. Nestled on the outskirts of a quiet town, bordered by thick woods and shrouded in perpetual mist, stood an imposing Victorian mansion known as Wycliffe Manor. The grand estate, long abandoned and rumored to be cursed, had a history steeped in tragedy. Few dared to venture near it, but one man by the name of Edward Thornton found himself drawn to its eerie allure. Edward, a historian with a fascination for the macabre, had recently inherited the mansion from a distant relative. Excitement and trepidation mingled within him as he decided to spend a night alone within the grand halls of Wycliffe Manor. The townsfolk warned him of the spectral tales that clung to the estate, but Edward dismissed them as mere folklore. As the night settled in, Edward found himself in the opulent library, surrounded by dusty tomes that whispered forgotten secrets. The grand chandelier overhead swayed with an unsettling creak, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to dance across the walls. His solitude was disrupted by an old gramophone hidden in the corner, which began to play a haunting melody as if guided by invisible hands. The air grew colder, and Edward felt the weight of unseen eyes upon him. Uneasy, he explored the mansion, guided by the flickering candlelight that cast eerie glows on the faded wallpaper. As he ascended a grand staircase, the portraits lining the walls seemed to follow his every move. The eyes of long-dead ancestors bore into his soul, their stern expressions hinting at secrets too dreadful to be uttered. Each step he took resonated with the echoes of the mansion's past, a cacophony of joy, despair, and tragedy that lingered in the air. In a forgotten attic room, Edward stumbled upon a dusty chest filled with letters, diaries, and mementos. The tales within those aged pages spoke of forbidden romances, family betrayals, and a mysterious curse that had plagued the Wycliffe bloodline for generations. As he delved into the past, the mansion seemed to come alive with the ghostly echoes of those who had once called it home. As the clock struck midnight, a chill settled in the air and the shadows coalesced into tangible forms. Edward, gripped by both fear and fascination, witnessed apparitions of long-departed family members wandering through the halls. They whispered lamentations, their voices carrying the weight of unresolved grievances. The grand ballroom, once filled with laughter and music, became a spectral dance floor. Transparent figures twirled in a macabre waltz, their gowns and suits flowing as if moved by an otherworldly breeze. The gramophone continued to play, its haunting melody syncing with the rhythmic footsteps of the ghostly dancers. Edward, now a captive audience to the mansion's spectral performance, felt the oppressive atmosphere closing in around him. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the air became thick with the scent of faded roses, an aroma associated with tragic love stories buried in the mansion's past. In a desperate attempt to escape the ghostly entanglement, Edward descended into the dimly lit basement, where the heartbeat of the mansion seemed to emanate. There, he discovered a hidden chamber adorned with occult symbols and flickering candles. The room resonated with an ancient power, and Edward realized he had stumbled upon the source of the curse. As the clock struck the final chime, the mansion unleashed its spectral fury. Shadows enveloped Edward, and ghostly hands reached out, pulling him into a vortex of forgotten memories. He witnessed the tragedies that had befallen the Wycliffe family, each ghostly figure recounting their tale with anguished wails. The next morning, the mist around Wycliffe Manor lifted, revealing a facade unchanged by the events of the night. The townsfolk, unaware of the spectral dance that had unfolded within its walls, found Edward Thornton lying unconscious on the grand staircase. Haunted by the memories of the night, Edward carried the echoes of Wycliffe Manor with him wherever he went. The mansion, now a silent witness to its own tragic history, remained steeped in mystery, its grandeur masking the chilling secrets that lurked within its ornate corridors.